everybody. Welcome to Dattitude on this Friday morning. I'm Jim Derry. He is Larry Holder. We're going to talk about the Saints and the Panthers and all kinds of stuff. And Larry, you got your Christmas tree in the background. I got my chopping wood shirt on. What do you think? I'm going to chop some wood.
Oh my gosh, is that ever a football cliche? I mean, you could also have the stump in the locker room and then miss and then chop your leg like I think it was some Jaguars kicker did that once. I forget which one. I don't want to say it was Josh Scobie. It might have been, but I don't think it was him.
Well, we're going to chop some wood on the show today. And in fact, for those of you watching, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, you can access some. You get it? You can access some.
I've even got the elf on the shelf up other side, up somewhere around here.
Mine apparently flew in the kitchen, so mine can't be on the show today.
Ours is watching you, Jim. Watching, judging, watching.
Well, I already know I'm getting a lump of coal, so it is what it is. And, things probably don't like me very much. I've been kind of mean to them, but it is what it is. It's been a rough go as we talk about Saints-Panthers here this week, Larry, and it's kind of must-win. No, it's not kind of. It's must-win time in the Dome this Sunday, isn't it?
I tend not to use that term when it's not absolutely necessary, but all you have to do is watch, and that would have been awful if you watched it because I put myself through it last night. Watch the Steelers lose to the Patriots, and it's the second week in a row they lost to a 10-plus loss team, and they are in the playoff hunt, and that's with a banged-up quarterback. And look, the Saints would be on the verge of doing that if they lose this game and then go up against the Giants next week. This is a scenario where you have to win these next two games if you think or want to be viable, especially given you're not going to be first place in the division no matter if you win this week because Atlanta's playing Tampa. The winner of that will jump to first place. But to even have any sort of pulse in any kind of playoff hunt, you've got to win this game. And then if you lose this game, where does morale go? I mean, give me a break. I mean, it goes down the toilet.
Playoffs? You talking playoffs?
Still.
I mean, it's sad. That's where we are in the NFL. We were talking about listening to Boomer and Gio this morning. They were talking about the state of the playoffs. And they're like, why do we even have these many teams? I'm with them. I think 7's too many. I think 6 is probably the right number. I think the top 2 teams earn a bye. But really in the NFC, is there any scenario where you see anyone other than the Niners, Eagles, or Cowboys going to the Super Bowl out of the NFC? Let's get real.
I think Detroit has a shot.
No,
on a good. You put it together a couple of good days.
Come on, man.
Winning some shootouts.
Detroit's not good.
I'm not saying they're good, but I'm not going to say, you never know. Did you think the Giants would win the Super Bowl in 2017?
The only reason why Jared Goff went to the Super Bowl previously, with a much better team, by the way, is the fact that he got A, the no call, and B, had this fantastic, just unbelievable defense, and he still couldn't win the Super Bowl. So, I mean, that dude ain't going to the Super Bowl again, ever. He's never going to the Super Bowl
I'm not trying to
again.
make the argument that they're going to go, but I'm just going to say they're at least a viable playoff team. Like, the other ones, who in the NFC would you say, man, that's going to be a really viable playoff team? Like, I think they can win a game in the playoffs. Like, that's as far as I'm going.
That first round of the NFC playoffs is really going to be bad. It's going to be bad football. You're going to have either the Niners or the Eagles playing whoever the 7th seed is, which is going to be bad. Then you're going to have Detroit's going to play. I don't know. Whoever
the 6th seed is.
Who's the 6th seed going to be? Like, I mean, think about it. Who's the 6th seed?
Green Bay,
maybe.
Minnesota.
All right, so that might be a decent game. You might have one decent game. And then the other one's going to be the Cowboys visiting either the Falcons or the Saints. You want to talk about ass whipping.
Why not Tampa?
It ain't going to be Tampa.
Why
Tampa's
not?
Tampa's going to be eliminated this week. I mean, we'll talk about that game later. But
I was about to say, you better say. I figure you got that on the picks.
I'll
refrain.
It's on there. We'll talk about it. All right, let's talk about these Saints. And I spent all of Monday joking about chopping wood. And again, if you're just joining us, I'm wearing my chopping wood shirt. Go ahead and ask us some questions or leave your comments. We'll Paul Bunyan them here on Dattitude on this Friday. Whether you're from Araby or wherever the hell, where were we getting Abu Dhabi? We were getting comments from.
Maybe Adelaide. Go back to Australia.
Adelaide. Yeah, there you go. But you look at this team, and here's what scares me about the Panthers, and I'm trying not to fall into that negative. Just thinking as bad as I can think. I'm trying not to think like that because that's how every Saints fan's thinking right now. But you're facing a Panthers team that it's not like your average 1-11 team. Your average 1-11 team is looking forward to getting the first pick of the draft, and they just keep losing, and it doesn't matter. This team has no reason to lose whatsoever because their first-round pick is going to the Chicago Bears. So they just don't have any reason to lose. They're going to come in here fighting, and really, they're much better than almost every one-win team I've seen at this point in the season. They're really not that bad. I mean, they're bad, but they're not that bad.
Well, they're pretty bad.
They're bad offensively. They can't move the football, but the Saints can't. Look at where the Saints have gone. Remember, they were 4th about 6 or 8 weeks ago, ranked defensively. They're now 15th. They're worse than the offense. They're 15th defensively.
That's not good. That is the absolute not recipe for this team to win. You mentioned Carolina, and if you want to go check out what a dumpster fire that actually is, I would recommend going to go read my colleagues Joe Person and Diana Rossini, a huge expose on how bad it is in Carolina right now, and how there's really no hope, especially given they would have the top pick in the draft and it's not even theirs. And
I thought Diana Rossini was spending all her time talking about Aaron Rodgers.
Well, Aaron Rodgers was spending too much time maybe talking about her because he's so bitter that the leaks are coming. Poor Aaron Rodgers.
That never happened before.
Right. He just thinks anyway, that's a whole other topic that oh my gosh, don't even get me started about that clown. But no, Carolina, here's the thing. It's a weird thing because A, they're not playing for draft status. B, they have an interim coach who it doesn't seem like he's going to be at all considered to be in the running.
Well, they didn't hire Steve Wilkes, so they're definitely not going to hire this dude.
Exactly. So you're in La La Land. The only person who you probably know is going to be around next year is Bryce Young, because you look at their top free agent would be Brian Burns. I'm trying to think off the top of my head if he's a 4th or 5th year guy, but I'm sure he would like to get out of town. But I don't. But the franchise tag is always still available for him, and I'm sure he wouldn't be too thrilled if he received the tag. But like, who else is there?
You don't expect this team to fight, then?
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I'm just saying there's a lot of reasons why you could point for them not to, but still, everyone else though is playing for jobs somewhere, coaching for a job somewhere, playing for a job somewhere. So. If you go in the dumpster, your stock after the season is not going to be very high if you're trying to be employed somewhere else.
All right, we have a good comment here. That's a great segue. Okay, when I'm talking about the Saints this week, you don't have to go far, in my opinion. And I know Larry is not the kind of guy that's just going to blast the team. I'm the one that's going to blast the team. So here's my way of blasting this coaching group. Okay, if you need any proof of the ineptitude of this coaching staff, here's a perfect example. And Jando, you are spot on. Here we go again. Not letting Jameis prepare and rolling with a hurt quarterback again. Not letting him practice with the ones. Then judging him when he comes in cold. I couldn't agree more. Larry, I want your opinion on this. There is absolutely zero, and I mean 0.0 reason to start Derek Carr this week in concussion protocol for the 3rd time this season, yet they seem intent on rolling him out there this week, exposing him to further potential injury, not just football. When you're talking about concussion, we're not just talking about football injury here. We're talking about messing with this dude's life. I mean, I'm sure he's lobbying to play. What the hell are they doing rolling Derek Carr out there? Because it's starting to look to me like he's going to play.
And we made that mistake a couple weeks ago where you and me were thinking he wouldn't play, and then all of a sudden he played, and obviously that was a mistake. What was that, the Tampa game? Was that
Tampa game? We said a few weeks ago. That was really like 2 months ago, but yeah.
Right. Well, it all feels like it's
It does.
just one long Groundhog Day at this rate. But it's a bizarre situation in that we know that they have no faith in Jameis. Like, they just don't. And yet they brought him back to be their back.
That's why. Why would they bring him back? I mean, they obviously don't like this guy. Okay, they obviously don't want Jameis win. The only thing I can think of is they're scared to death that they are going to have a quarterback controversy. It's the only thing I can think of. That if it was a long-term thing where Derek Carr was going to be gone for a month, they know Jameis Winston could be a capable backup and survive for a month, could do a good job. But at the same time, they don't want to take the chance that he's going to go in there, have a great game, the Saints win by 3 touchdowns, and then the fans go ape bleep because, well, you got to leave Jameis in now, and they don't want that. So it makes zero sense to me. What are we doing here?
Well, I don't know which one actually gives you the best chance to win, so that's probably maybe why they're looking at it that way. I don't
disagree with that.
So, like, that's probably going in as part of their logic here. But you have brought in a guy and paid him to play. And if he passes concussion protocol, it sounds like that's going to play. And that's, to me, the whole thing is just a mess. And it goes beyond just right now. Like, you're tied to him for one more year, really. Like, you can't, like, and that's, I'm sure you'll have me on in the offseason and we'll talk about quarterback scenarios because someone who you're probably going to be wanting to keep an eye on is gonna hoist a trophy tomorrow night in New York and be someone that you probably need to consider if you are a top 12 pick, which if the Saints don't win the division, they will be somewhere in that mix. So, but what do you do? And
they don't know what to do with it.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't know where the roster is going to stand when they draft. Again, that's all. We're all going down the line, but it's to me, we are just going to be beating our head against the wall with this scenario because they don't seem like they're in any position to ever change course if they think they're still in it and they think Derek Carr is still the best option for them to win, and that's where they're going.
Jermaine says he's sick and tired of leaving the dome in the fourth quarter before 0-0. Well, Jermaine, I can't leave. I mean, when I get up there, I'm like stuck. And then not only that, I'm stuck like until they let the coaches down and we got to wait in a line to get in an elevator. We're at the top of the dome. Myron knows what I'm talking about, and you got to just wait. Mike, look, I would be happy if they used Taysom Hill consistently. We win more games. I disagree with that. Taysom Hill's not a quarterback. They tried that experiment already. That's going nowhere. They're not going to use – not only are they not going to use – I actually don't – I hear you. I just don't think that works. They've tried that. Don, who's written me a lot over the past month or so, thank you for being a member of the I don't want to say Dattitude Nation. That sounds like I'm Bobby Hebert or something. Whatever. Our fans, our listeners.
The Dattitudes.
The Dattitudians. They would rather lose with Carr than win with Jameis. Hopeful for Daniels. Oh, man. You can hope all you want, my friend. Saints don't draft quarterbacks. They just don't. And they don't like LSU guys either, I don't think.
Here we go.
I'm saying. What's the
I'm pretty sure they would like Joe Burrow. Pretty sure they would have drafted him.
I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have.
Oh, my gosh. Give me a break. Of course
they don't draft quarterbacks.
They would have drafted
They just don't draft quarterbacks.
Oh.
All right. I don't know if it's Bashan or Bichon. Taysom Hill is your pick. Ain't going to happen.
At this rate, Taysom Hill needs to be involved in the offense because
I agreed wholeheartedly with that.
And the thing is with Taysom, you can't have a guy who's going to run that hard in his running style and then expect him to be super accurate throwing the football the entire game. Like, that's like any quarterback who's a mobile guy is not taking the same kind of punishment that Taysom does. So, like, involve him, yes, but put him as your every down quarterback, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah, he's the human concussion protocol. If he played every down, he'd be in concussion protocol like all the time. Wouldn't you think?
His whole body would be in concussion.
Exactly. I mean, do you see when he takes his helmet off, what his head looks like? He's got like these indentations in his head, and looks like he just came out of a 12-round match with Floyd Mayweather or something. I don't know what the heck is going on. Look, I just going back to the whole thing, I just don't understand it. If I think any competent, normal organization would have come out on Tuesday, or maybe not on Monday. Tuesday's an off day, whatever. And Dennis Allen should have just said on Tuesday, you know what? And told him, dude, you're not playing this week. I don't care what the doctors say. I don't care if they clear you. I mean, let's just get it over with. I mean, that's what a normal coach of a successful franchise would have done. He would have come out and said, you're not playing this week, and then go along and practice as if with Jameis, with the ones, like Jando said earlier, and just let him start from the beginning. And I don't understand. I just don't get it. I mean, and now you're leaving this doubt. I mean, we're still look like we're saying here. You and I were debating for the Tampa game who was going to start, and I was sure Jameis was starting just because Derek Carr was. But now, I think the past has shown us that it probably is going to be Derek Carr. I mean, I think it's probably 75% chance it's Derek Carr. But the fact that we don't know here on Friday morning is absurd.
It's not like it's a competitive advantage. I
None.
mean, I think that's the silliness of the whole thing. Your offense doesn't change regardless of who's in there, whatever. And well, here's the thing: it's internally, I'm sure they know, but I don't know how it benefits the Saints for them to come out and say who's going to do it publicly, because they know the pulse of the situation outside of the building is that the fan base has soured on Derek Carr. Like, they don't benefit themselves for like perception wise if they say Derek's going to play. Like, it doesn't help them. So in that sense, that's probably one reason why they're doing it. And I've said this a few times in some other media appearances this week. How much of the biggest self-sabotage did the Saints pull last week when you switch quarterbacks consistently and fans go roar with Taysom Hill and they just boo the hell out of Carr when he comes back in? It's like the biggest self-sabotage you can have, and it happened constantly.
I felt bad for that dude. I really did. Mark says Carr is healthy again. Are you a doctor? I doubt seriously, Mark. I appreciate you joining the show as often as you do, but I don't even think Derek Carr would tell you he's healthy. Even if he plays, he's not healthy. He's got other problems beyond his concussion. He's got rib injury. He's got all kinds of stuff going on. Jermaine
recurring
says,
shoulder. That thing is recurring.
Yeah, recurring is a good word to put it. At this point, Jermaine says, put Hayner in the game if we're out of the playoff picture, evaluate his game. That's the problem. They're not out of the playoff picture. I mean, I think they have, look, they're one game behind the Falcons and play them in the final week of the season, which will probably be the tiebreaker. They're not out of the playoff picture. I think they still have a really good chance to win this crappy division. And you might say, who cares? Don't win the division. You're better off if you don't. I can understand that viewpoint, but they're still in the playoff picture, so you can't do that. Mike saying we would have won with Derek Carr, but gave it 21 points in the first quarter. Derek Carr, I believe, was in there. So they gave up the 21 points when Derek Carr was playing. One of them was an interception.
The pick wasn't his fault.
Come on.
It goes through the guy's hands. Come on. You can't blame Derek Carr for that. You can't.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you just can't. I mean,
okay.
You should have caught it.
I'm not saying anything. Play Taysom. At least he's fun to watch. Look, I appreciate all the comments and questions. The Saints just don't care what we think, right?
Well, of course not. No, they don't. And
do you think they watch any of this? I'm not talking about this show, but they say they're going to do. I finally noticed last week our colleagues started asking a little bit tougher questions after this past game. They have been kind of letting this group slide and not asking tough questions. but especially Kat never shies away. Kat Terrell never shies away from asking tough questions.
Never has.
But she really got Dennis Allen's goat last Sunday. And it was the first time I ever saw him get a little ticked off, which I thought was interesting. And then he backed off of it and apologized to her, which I thought was hysterical. I can't imagine Sean Payton ever apologizing, especially to Kat. But I think all of our colleagues are starting to ask a little tougher questions now. Do they feel any kind of pressure whatsoever, you think?
I think they know that they have heat on them for sure. But they've always played the just almost slow and steady game. Like
they should call themselves the Turtles. Exactly.
The slow and steady. Yeah, they think slow and steady wins the race. Well, sometimes it does, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you just slow, and the person who's going fast just has enough gas to beat you. So
slow and unsteady.
Well, that's the thing. That's what it's becoming, the slow and unsteady. And but yeah, they know the pulse of what's going on. All you got to do is go on Sunday and you know the pulse.
But here's the problem. I think they're just starting to notice it is the problem. I think they do notice it now, but I think probably before like 2-3 games ago, before there was a sea of blue at the bottom in the dome, before there were boos when Derek Carr came in the game and cheers when Taysom came in the game, I really think that this group was semi-oblivious to all this stuff.
Well, they were actually sort of winning games. What did they win 2 in a row? And, so yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. So, but they feel like, all right, well, they have the right people in the building and they, that sort of thing. And that's not what people want to hear because they have been consistently falling. I mean, record wise, that's just what it's been. And so, that's like I feel like that again. They know the pulse of what the public perception is right now, but a lot of times they feel like they're smarter than what is being
smarter
perceived.
than your average bear, boo boo.
Something like that.
I mean,
maybe stealing picnic baskets. I don't know.
Chris says even if the Saints end up winning the division, would I mean, I guess either you or I mean, you can answer the question and keep Allen for next year. I wouldn't. Here's the deal. My opinion doesn't matter. Larry's opinion doesn't matter. Chris, your opinion doesn't matter. I've said this before, and I will say it again. Barring complete meltdown, which is possible at this point. I mean, I wouldn't have said it was possible a few weeks ago, but it's possible now. When you haven't won for a month and you're playing this schedule, it's absolutely possible they could have complete meltdown now. So, but barring that, they're not going to get rid of Dennis Allen.
Well, I'm wondering how prevalent maybe, say, someone like Mike Thomas, he's exposed
what a mess,
his feelings publicly, and he could say what he wants. But what if it's not just him that feels like they have internally turned on Derek Carr offense? What if that's the case? And then you lose the locker room. And then that's a reason why maybe you make a change at head coach because they don't trust leadership and they don't trust this and that. And so that would be a reason maybe they make a move. But this organization has been run by the same people for a long, long time. Their philosophy, especially with the Saints, has been pretty consistent. And they don't act in their opinion rashly. So that's where we are. And so Dennis, I still can't see them firing Dennis Allen after 2 years. It would have to take them losing every game the rest of the way. Then
I don't know about every game, but maybe one game. I will say this, and here's the reason why I started to maybe accept that it's a possibility. And I brought it up a few minutes ago. When you see your fan base, basically the entire lower bowl, not the entire, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but a large chunk of people who have money, because you have to have money to buy tickets in that lower bowl. I used to buy them down there, and I couldn't afford them anymore. Not that I would buy them now anyway because of my job description. But when you see that many people sell out and sell their tickets, and it's not the first time it's happened this year. It's happened plenty. It's the first time I got noticed. And the noise factor from the other fans, it was a completely different feeling in the Dome this past week. I'm interested to see what it's like. I think it's going to be a ghost town Sunday because you're not going to have Panthers fans there. I think it's going to be like a cemetery in the damn Dome on Sunday. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're not have to worry about that this week. You'll just have to worry about just empty seats this time around. And might I say it might feel like an old Tulane game in there.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was thinking. Maybe not quite that bad.
I'm exaggerating.
But would you be surprised if there are only 50,000 people in the Dome? I mean, now, of course, the attendance will be 70,200 and whatever it is.
The tickets are sold.
Because it's the tickets sold. They started doing that a long time ago because they don't really want you to know how many people are there. So, but would you be surprised if at kickoff there are 20,000 empty seats?
No.
Neither would I.
No. Why go spend your money in there?
And if they lose this week, it's going to be like a preseason game for the Giants game next week.
Well, they have their preseason quarterback playing, Tommy DeVito. But hey,
yo.
I mean, they're not even playing Tyrod Taylor, man. It's the Tommy DeVito show. Let's go. Let's get crazy here.
Hey, and look, you want to, and that's next week. We'll talk about this next week. But at least the Giants are like, we're not going anywhere. Let's see what we got in DeVito. And the question earlier about whether they play Jake Haener, again, these aren't my opinions. I'm just telling you what the Saints would do. What would I do? I don't know what I would do. I would definitely try something different. But the Giants are putting DeVito in there, like Larry said. Now Tyrod Taylor's back. Try something. These Saints are keep just doing the same old thing and expecting different results.
Well, the next two teams you play, they are locked into quarterback, for better or worse. I mean, Bryce Young's going to be the Panthers quarterback for a couple more years at least. And the Giants have locked themselves. It depends on – it's really kind of – I don't know. Is Daniel Jones better or worse than Derek Carr being locked into? I don't know. I thought the Giants – basically stepped on the banana peel and signed Daniel Jones, and I'm sure everyone just kind of laughed because I did. At least say the Seahawks when they had they went and re-signed Geno Smith. I mean, he at least to me, I at least felt like, all right, there's maybe some promise, but I didn't trust Daniel Jones, and that's going to ruin them for the next at least another year.
And that's the course of that's the proof of look, we drafted this guy in the first round. We're stuck with him, and then you sign him to this contract. The Giants. I mean, Brian Dable's got to be going, what did we do signing that? That's a whole. We'll talk about that next week. Jermaine says he's been a season ticket holder since '91. He's got a suite. He won't be there Sunday. He's in Vegas on business. He left the T-Mobile Arena early last night. I bet you did. I couldn't even watch that game last night. The Pelicans, a whole different story. They had a lot of people thinking they could win last night, and then they got the doors blown off. But I couldn't watch that game. I cannot watch games on that court. I mean, that blue and red court would hurt I literally would rather watch the Patriots and Steelers, and I did. I tried to go back to the I tried to go back to the Pelicans, and I couldn't do it. I had to go. I watched Patriots and Steelers over the Pelicans in the semifinals of this quote-unquote in-season tournament that means nothing.
Well, I watched Steelers Patriots as well. Well, part of it is that's more my job. So
mine too.
I watched that, but yeah, it was. The court is it's hard
awful.
To do. It's hard.
It is awful. I mean, I know 20-somethings probably like it, and maybe I'm just an old man, get off my lawn, whatever. But that was so bad, Nathaniel. I'm not 100% sure what you're talking about, what I said yesterday. I appreciate you coming on again. And Nathaniel also becoming a regular here on all of our bet.nola.com shows. I said that I don't – you said I just don't like cars. I'm not exactly sure what you – maybe this is a little bit better. Yesterday, I said that you don't like car. I like car, and I think healthy. Okay, that's fair enough. That's a fair statement. I get you. I agree with that part. But – we've talked about this. The Saints obviously are determined to do. They're like stubborn. They're like kicking the mule. The mule just is going to do what the mule is going to do, and it's not going to change their stripes. They just don't want to make a change. I don't understand what it is. All right, let's talk about other parts of this game because we've now spent 25 minutes talking about the same thing. So as far as the game goes, and you and I like to do this, we add up the numbers of the rankings, and the Saints ranking number, it continues to rise because that defensive number continues to rise. Remember before when it was like 12 on offense and 4 or 7 on defense? Well, now it's 11 and 15, 26. The Saints have a number that's basically average. I don't know that I would call them an average team right now. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Panthers aren't that far off. What do you see in this game? What is the key number? What matchup are you looking for that you're going to keep your eye on this weekend?
Well, the key number of those numbers I'm looking at is still the Panthers offense at 30. And you're wondering, man, if the Saints are falling off that much and they allow the Panthers offensively to move the football and be productive, then you've got a really, really, really massive problem. I mean, you already have a pretty significant problem, but the problem's bigger than what you even thought. And so, like that's the thing. You can't have Bryce Young, who's been consistently bad all year. Like, you can't just let them all of a sudden start scoring points and going up and down the field on you. So
you mean
some
like
of
New
that
England did last night?
Right. Like Bailey, like Bailey Zappi all of a sudden becomes for one half Tom Brady. Like you can't have that happen. But part of that is offensively. Do you make mistakes, 3 and outs? Like, you can't let them linger in the game. And look, even in that first matchup, the Panthers lingered in the game almost the entire time.
Yeah.
And and that's when you thought the Saints, all right, maybe they could be a good team, but the Saints are just a mediocre.
We didn't know how bad the Panthers were at the time is probably what it was.
Yeah, I didn't think the Panthers would be as bad as they are, but yeah, they are. And so where do you go if you're defensively and you've got to just you can't let the Carolina score more than 14 points. I mean, they're not good enough to score more than that on your defense, even if it's middle of the road. They're not good enough to do that. So they do, like I said, bigger problems than maybe what we even envision.
Two things that jump out at me here, which is why, again, we'll get to our predictions at the end of the show. But I think what looks best for the Saints, now whether they're able to take advantage of it or not is another story. We'll figure it out. But you look at the Saints passing, their passing defense is 7th. So that is still decent. Even without Lattimore, they've obviously struggled a little bit. The Panthers can't run the ball. They can't throw the ball. But really, Bryce Young, you talk about his struggles, 30th in passing against the Saints' 7th-ranked pass defense. And on the other side, I think this could be, if Taysom Hill is healthy, the combination of Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara against the Panthers' 23rd-ranked rushing defense. They haven't really been able to stop anyone either. That 7th-ranked total defense is kind of a mirage, facade, whatever word you want to use, because other teams have been ahead by so much, have gotten turnovers maybe in the red zone or close to it. Those numbers may be a little bit skewed.
Saints win the game by running the football. I think you're exactly right. Like, you can't trust a pass game. I don't care who's in there. I'm not trusting it. Even it's funny, and people aren't going to like to hear this, but Derek Carr actually had some pretty good numbers toward the end of his playing time last week, and then he got hurt. But that's too little, too late. I get it, but still, running the football, you got to do that. I mean, if you can dominate running the football, like, Panthers aren't going to win playing catch up.
Right.
Like, you can't, and red zone's been terrible for the Saints. Can't settle for that. That keeps them in the game. All of a sudden, a couple fluky plays and you lose this game. So yeah, like, they have to be able to win the line of scrimmage offensively and run the football with the two guys you totally mentioned. I mean, that's the key to win.
Things we've talked about this week, and I know you're not the biggest point spread guy. When you make your picks, you pick, who's going to win the game and who's going to lose the game. My job is to go through and not just pick who's going to win, but who's going to cover, who's not going to cover. And one thing that's an interesting facet of this game is the sharps, the people with the money. We talked about this on Bayou Bets throughout the week. The people with the money have been betting on the Saints all year long. In fact, the report that I heard and read throughout the week is through 13 weeks of the NFL season, the Saints are the third most bet on team in football, which is amazing to me considering they have one of the worst against the spread records in football. I think they only have 2 wins this year against the spread. And so this number, the point I'm getting to is they're finally backing off, because this number, I think it opened at 6 very briefly, quickly went to 5.5. And now the Panthers are 5-point favorites, which means people are actually betting on the Panthers this week. The people with money have lost so much faith that even against the lowly Panthers, they're only going to give 5 points in the Dome. It's kind of crazy.
Well, the Saints, that surprises me too. My gosh. Hopefully they're betting that the Saints don't cover. Otherwise, they've been constantly losing.
They've been betting that the Saints would cover.
That's not good.
They've been losing a lot of money.
Yeah. They'd be living in a box down by the river or something.
Down by the river. It's just an interesting spread. And I think that any other time, if you would have talked about this maybe a month ago before the Saints went on the skid, the Saints would probably be like an 8-point favorite at home against the
no question.
So it just goes to show you how far down this team has gone.
No question. I mean, a month ago, you would thinking they'd be winning the division, and like this would be a shoo-in game. This is not a shoo-in game anymore.
Question before, look, we're going to end the show with our Saints-Panthers prediction, like we always do. But before we move on to NFL, because there are 2 big matchups, really 3 matchups I want to talk about, 2 really big ones I want to talk about in the NFL this week. And by the way, for those who don't know, Larry Holder covers the NFL for The Athletic. He no longer just covers the Saints. He covers the entire NFL, The Athletic, and you can read his stuff there as I do every week. He's not like Diana Rossini getting Aaron Rodgers pissed off at him. He's doing his thing.
I wouldn't mind doing it. So
no,
what?
I know you wouldn't. My question to you before we move on to the NFL part is, you see in the headline, must win might not be a strong enough thing for the Saints on Sunday. I heard Sean Fazan saying the other night, and I think it's true, and I believe this actually. If the Saints were to lose this game, now we know Dennis Allen's not going to get fired unless if they lost like 49-0 or something, which ain't going to happen. Then all bets are off. Who knows what happens? But if the Saints were to lose this game, do you think that some kind of move is made internally? They've got to let somebody go. Like, we saw what happened with the Bills, and now they've made their moves. The Matt Canada got fired for the Steelers. Ken Dorsey, that was the name I was thinking of for the Bills. But do you think the Saints do something along those lines if they don't win this game?
I think they're beyond the point of no return. So no, I don't think. What's the point? Like
right.
It wouldn't help matters.
Right.
They need someone outside the building in terms of assistant coaches to re-energize this thing. So I don't see how this helps. It would help anything. So yeah, I think they just stay status quo, and then changes will come at the end of the season. They have to. I'm sure they know
some kind of change. Yeah, I will say this. All the things I say, people get mad at me when I say it, but I'm just telling you what's going to happen. I say Dennis Allen's not going to get fired, and I still honestly believe that. I mean, it's at least possible now. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's at least possible now. But that being said, there will be changes on this staff. One way, and I'm talking about even if they were somehow to win the rest of their games, which ain't going to happen either. There are going to be changes on this staff. We'll make our predictions at the end, but again, there are a couple games I want to talk about here. Let's start off with the one that's most important to Saints fans, I guess. Some Saints fans don't really care anymore. That's where we are. But the Bucs are playing basically in an elimination game for themselves. If the Bucs were to lose this game, they're done. They'd be, there's only 4 games left after this. So if they lose to the Falcons, they're 2 games back and would lose any tiebreaker, they're done. Does that play into here and what you're thinking about who might win this game?
I don't know if that plays into it, but I am looking at quarterback play with this game. And
me too.
In Baker, I trust.
Me too.
I'm taking Tampa straight up to beat Atlanta and to muddy the race in the NFC South.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that, look, I said this yesterday. I liken Baker Mayfield to one of those dudes that everybody has that friend that you go out and every now and then you get in a fight. At least we did one in our younger days. You would get in a fight and the dude would get pummeled and he'd go to the ground and he's like 5'8", and this 6'4" dude pummels him, hits him again, and he goes to the ground and he just keeps going. And you're like, dude, just stay down. That's who Baker Mayfield is. He won't stay. I got to give him credit. I don't think he's a very good quarterback, but the dude fights his ass off. And I see this Tampa Bay team as poorly coached as I think they are. I think they're going to fight. I think Baker Mayfield is going to fight. I think the Saints would be I can't believe I'm saying this. I think the Saints would be a much better team with a guy like Baker Mayfield who continues to fight. He's not a good quarterback, but he fights. And I think the Bucs are going to win this game as well. I really find that game interesting. I will be when I'm in the Dome on Sunday, that will be on my iPad screen. I'm keep an eye on that. Again, if the Bucs lose, they're done. And in this division, I can't see anyone running away with it. Another reason to take the Buccaneers on Sunday. All right, Bills, Chiefs. This line started at Bills plus 2.5. It has gone down. I don't know what's wrong with the Chiefs. It's not the same team. I know that we can always say whatever we want about the Chiefs, and then they're there in the end. I'm not sure they're going to be there in the end this time. The Bills are fighting for their lives. The Chiefs are going to walk away with this division. I think you know who I'm going to pick. Where are you going?
I'm going to stick with the Chiefs, but I think your argument is certainly valid with the Bills. They're fighting for their playoff lives, and the Chiefs can just go into cruise control and get in. The problem with the Chiefs is that they have no viable pass catchers outside of Travis Kelce.
Literally.
And Travis Kelce is slowing down. Like,
really is.
I feel like he's starting to show his age. And it's funny because I'll revert back to the game we just talked about before. I've said it a few times now on The Athletic, especially when I did my free agent stock watch. I said, boy, Mike Evans would look real good with the Chiefs next year. I think Patrick Mahomes would love it. He'd be a big body receiver instead of Kelce and actually be a receiver.
Yeah.
And then you could use some of those speedy guys, but Evans could be your surefire guy, number one. Yeah. But yeah, that's definitely the biggest problem because Patrick Mahomes' quarterback rates, they've been the lowest at times this year than they haven't been in his entire career. And I think part of that is not having enough viable pass catches. But I'm going with Chiefs. I just think that the Chiefs defense can come up big and help the sluggish offense and maybe induce Josh Allen with some mistakes.
This is not a game I'm going to bet on. I wouldn't touch it with a stick.
I wouldn't bet on this game either.
No, it's just too hard to go through. But if I were forced to take a side here, I would take the Bills. And actually, if you wanted to bet it, if you're looking from a betting perspective, I would take like the Bills outline of like minus 2.5. You can get it for plus 120, which means that you bet $12, you win 10, or 120 to win 100. Because I think the Bills will either win by more than a field goal or they might get crushed. I think there's it's weird where I don't necessarily think there's a middle ground. I don't know which Josh Allen we're going to see. By the way, Nathaniel, you're showing your age. I'm going to show this comment again. You're showing your age, my friend. Baker won't stand. He's Bill Kilmer reincarnated. If you know who Billy Kilmer is, you're old like me. All right, so you're showing your age. I'm just letting you know. All right, so you got the Chiefs. I got the Bills. Now I'm looking forward to this prognostication here. You're talking about it just seems, and I know I've been talking the Cowboys up all week. Doesn't it just seem so easy to knock the Eagles down right now?
Well, part of it is that the Eagles just got shell-shocked. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And I just feel like, for me, I've been on the Eagles. Right. I'm taking them until they prove me otherwise. I think they proved me otherwise, at least this week. And I feel like that Dak Prescott, this isn't a fluke. I mean, he's under the best stretch he's ever played in his entire career.
Right.
I mean, there's a reason why he is the co-favorite to win the MVP with Brock Purdy right now. And Brock Purdy might not even be the most valuable player on offense for his own team. But Dak Prescott is making that thing run because their run game, like Tony Pollard, like that run game is not a real thing with Dallas. And he is making that thing go. And he won a game where they had to put it on his back last week, where they needed all the points, and it was him getting it done. So I'm taking Dallas. I'm really surprised. I never thought I would ever take Dallas.
Would you take Dallas minus 3.5? Would you take Dallas minus 3.5?
No. I think they'll win. It might be a field goal game. It might be a 2-point game. It might be a 1-point game. But I'll take Dallas heads up, but I don't know if Dallas is going to cover.
Here's a perfect example of why, I tell people this all the time. You don't have to bet every game. So if we're just picking games to pick them and who I think is going to win, I'm taking Dallas as well. I think Dallas is a better team. I've said it from the beginning of the season. Dallas was my Super Bowl team out of the NFC. I'm not going to change that now, although I definitely don't feel it as strongly as I felt about it before. But here's the reason why, if from a betting perspective, you just can't bet on Dallas here. Because every Aunt Mabel, as I like to call them, the people who just like bet on Sundays and casual bettors, they're all betting on Dallas because of what they saw from Philadelphia last week. Whereas the people with money are betting on Philadelphia because they're betting, all this talk about how Jalen Hurts is banged up and he's not. They should sit him and let him rest for the playoffs, which is dumb, by the way. You don't sit people unless they absolutely have to be sit right now. So if I were betting it, I would probably lean Philly with the plus 3.5, but just since I'm not betting it, I'm going to take Dallas with Larry because I think they're the better team. But be warned, be fair warned, everyone else is doing that as well. Like people, just average Joes, are taking Dallas as well. So
yeah, like if I was betting, I wouldn't bet the middle game. I wouldn't bet Bills, Chiefs, but I would bet. And if we're doing point spread, I would bet Eagles, and I would bet Tampa, but I would bet Tampa on the money line. Like I feel like they're going to win.
I agree with you. I actually have Tampa in one of my best bets. I got Tampa as a teaser leg, getting 6 points. So they actually getting 7.5 in a teaser leg. I really like that this week. You can pair them with some other ones. All right, before we go off the air this morning, as we do every Friday here on Dattitude, Larry and I will pick the winner of the Saints-Panthers game. Larry Holder, you were right again last week. I was almost right. I mean, I didn't look like I was going to be. It looked like I was going to be stone cold, dead, dumb wrong for the first 8 minutes of the game. And then the Saints actually made a game out of it and like kind of made sure that they didn't win. I mean, they had a chance to win. They're like, oh, no. We're getting too close to winning this game. Got to give it back to the other team. They were weird. They've been weird all season. This game might be weird. I don't know, but I'm interested on your pick here. I have not read it yet. Panthers and Saints, what you got?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Guess what? I'm picking Panthers. Panthers 20, Saints 19. Blake Grupe misses like an extra point.
Wow.
Like early in the game, and it bites.
I didn't see this coming.
20-19 Panthers. I'm sick of the Saints. No, I've been right the last couple weeks. Guess what? I'm doing it again.
Man. I got to be honest. I didn't see that coming. I really thought you were going to pick the Saints and like come out with this thing.
I don't care who the quarterback is either. I don't care who it is. Carolina's going to win this game.
I'm kind of stunned. I would just, I'd say about 85% of the time I kind of know who you're going to pick just because, I don't know, we've worked together for a while, kind of get your sense of where you go with things and your feeling for things. I didn't see this one coming at all. So I'm kind of surprised. All right. I want to pick the same way you pick because I'm sick of the Saints too. It's hard to pick them right now. And if you were a bettor, to me, this is like the perfect time to bet them because even the bettors are sick of this team. They're sick of the chopping wood crap. I'm going to chop some wood. What the hell does that even mean? I don't even know. It pisses me off. But I will say this. From a prognosticating standpoint, you have to pick the Saints here. I mean, this is either...
No, you don't.
Yeah, you have to. I mean,
you don't.
You didn't. You're right. But I'm talking about if you're bet, you either lead this game alone, which probably makes more sense, or you take the Saints because, again, everybody's picking against them this week. The bettors have had enough of them. But Vegas, here's the thing. despite the fact that everybody's betting on the Panthers, they don't want to drop this line too low because I think Vegas thinks the Saints are going to win this game big, and I think they are too. I think it's going to be I'm going to go 26-17 Saints. New Gen Express says he's picking the Panthers. Or I'm sorry, could be a she. I'm sorry. He or she is picking the Panthers too. We have a garbage coaching staff and a garbage quarterback. We ain't winning nothing else this season. Chris Reed says in this game he thinks all the fans on both sides lose. I think that might be the best pick of the day. Both sides fans lose. Sean says
you might say the same thing next week.
Oh, really? No kidding. Sean says Saints all day. Again, the Saints are clearly, and it doesn't mean anything. I get it. The Saints are clearly the better team in this game. Does it mean they're going to win? No. But if they lose this game, and people who do what I do for a living aren't supposed to do it this way, but I probably won't pick them again. If they lose this game, I'm just out of protest. They're done, by the way, if they lose this game. If they lose this game, they're done.
I think that's partially why I'm picking them out of protest. I'm sick of them. I don't care.
Mark wants to know, is Taysom going to play? I'm sure he's going to play. I know he's banged up, but he's going to play. He's not going to start a quarterback if that's what you're asking, but he's going to play. $14 tickets right now on StubHub. Yikes. Jando says it ends in a 6-6 tie. Jando, if this game ends in a 6-6 tie, email me at jderry@theadvocate.com, and I've got to get you on the show next week. You will come on with Larry and I if this game ends in a 6-6 tie, because I'm going to have to know what the score is for the Giants game. That's for sure. All right, any final thoughts, Mr. Holder? I mean, you have to kind of watch this game, but what would you recommend would you recommend a Saints fan go Christmas shopping or something Sunday?
Well, there are other games. I mean, you could go out and find your Jaden Daniels Heisman Trophy gear. It's got to be stuff out there Sunday, right?
Yeah,
that'll be good. That'll be uplifting.
It's Mark's out there talking about it. Some guy from Lafitte's giving away 500 Fire Dennis Allen shirts Sunday, and I don't know if they're going to let him do that on Dome property, by the way, because I saw that same thing. And he was talking about where he was going to be, and I think it was on Dome prop. That may be a story. If they ask him to vacate the premises because he's giving away Fire Dennis Allen shirts on Dome property, we might have some. I did see, by the way, did you see these shirts that said for Florida State, if you can't beat them, cheat them? That's my
well, people could accuse Florida State of doing that probably at some point in life too.
You got a point. All right, last question before we go off the air. Do we pull for a win to make the playoffs and lose game one, or lose out to ensure Dennis Allen gets fired? I think you would think the same way as I do if you were a fan. You never, ever, ever, ever root for your team to lose. It doesn't do any good. You have no idea what's going to happen. If they lose out, then they lose out, do something stupid, and you're just pissed off because they still lost anyway, right?
I feel like you want your team to make the playoffs.
Exactly.
I mean, why? You give yourself a shot. You want a shot. That's, to me, it's frustrating as it is. I still think you want your team to have a shot, and that's the thing. The Saints still have a shot. That's the thing. It's not like it's like it would be wishful thinking, because the team they have a bunch of good pieces still. So it wouldn't be like this total shock if they did all this, but just the way it's gone, you'd probably be surprised even with the pieces they have. But no, but that's the thing. I don't have a rooting interest. I don't win and I don't lose. So I still got to work no matter who's in the playoffs or not. So it doesn't matter to me. But still, I'm also not putting, if I'm investing my money into this, I would still like to see a positive
Make it fun. Make it fun.
Right.
I mean, it's not fun if you cover this team. I mean, good Lord.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're a fan, if I'm buying season tickets, I would like to see them have a reason to keep going to the game.
Yeah, you want to be there at game one next year when they drop the NFC South champion banner, right?
Well, you may want to, because if you win, you host a playoff game. Give yourself a shot. Yeah, you might have to host Dallas. And that might be yucky, but oh well. Or the Eagles. What if the Eagles stumble and the Dallas wins the division?
Either one. In fact, I think the Eagles would be worse. I think the Saints would lose to the Eagles.
Just tush-push their way to a win in the Dome. Every
Saints
play, tush-push.
The Saints don't handle mobile quarterbacks at all, and Jalen Hurts would make them look silly, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion.
He did before he was even good. He did.
Yeah. Finish your Christmas shopping?
Not yet. No. Big stuff's been purchased.
Right.
But no.
All right.
Don't tell my kids, though.
Don't disappoint that elf up there.
He's staring at me, judging me. Actually, I don't. The gender changes by the day. We don't know. Like it's fizzy.
It's day.
It's fizzy, so it's good.
Fizzy. All right.
Yeah.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever Fizzy likes is fine with all of us. We're completely fine with that.
Yeah.
All right. We will talk to you next week, my friend.
You got it.
Everybody, as always, when I'm done with this show and I click the end stream button, I'm going to go add my monologue, and then we'll have a full podcast. And I'm sure there will be some talk about choppy that wood on the monologue portion of this broadcast on the podcast. You can find it wherever you find your podcast. Just search for Dattitude. And then Monday, I will have Derry's Dime, and next Friday, Larry will be back before we go into some weird holiday schedule. The Saints are going on the road on Thursday, and we'll have to figure that out. That's for another week. But for Larry Holder, I am Jim Derry. We hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you back here next week.